Hiya, Rose here. The 9.4.0 PTB has come and went, and I don't know about you, but it makes me very excited for the Stranger Things Part 2 chapter, particularly with the new killer, Vecna, aka The First, which, great naming convention behavior. I'm sure new players coming in will definitely not be confused when they face off against the D&D Vecna. But regardless, Vecna, not that Vecna. Vecna is looking to be a very fun and competent killer that also has a fair amount of counterplay to him. And he's not an easy killer to play either, requiring a fair amount of practice and skill to be good at. Most of his difficulty comes in trying to accurately use his ranged flying attack, which definitely can be misused and misplayed so much that it can cause you a losing game. With him moving at 4.4 meters or 110 movement speed, aiming the power making him slower, and actually firing the vine attack slowing him even more, it can be very punishing to constantly miss your shots as the survivor gains distance from you and you haven't gained any world breaker tokens to actually make your power threatening to injure survivors. However, once you get the ball rolling by landing those early hits, Vecna can be very oppressive with quickly downing and two-tapping survivors and having natural slowdown in his kit with the grandfather clocks that survivors have to use in order to reduce the world breaker duration. And there's no other way around it. You have to interact with these clocks as a survivor, lest your entire team gets destroyed by the vine attacks. And while from a survivor point of view, this seems absolutely ridiculous and should be changed or even nerfed to be more accommodating, I don't think this interaction or even the entire kit of the killer is that threatening as it seems, as I believe it is balanced around the skill levels of both the killer and the survivors trying to outplay one another. The survivors are very good at baiting missed shots, juking shots, and making overall distance. Then it becomes harder and harder for Vecna to get rolling and start putting the hurt on survivors unless they practice and get better at their shots. And on the other side, if the killer gets some quick shots in and quickly activates World Breaker to start snowballing and slowing the game down, survivors will need to hone in and chase this killer in an unorthodox way in order to recover from the match and get gens done. So I think changing Vecna drastically upon his release is gonna hurt his popularity and his gameplay long term. He needs some time after his release to settle and cook in as more counterplay and discoveries are made on this killer. So overall, I think Vecna the First, the Second, son of Vecna the Lich the First, is going to be a very fun killer to play as and against when he comes out. But with the release of a new killer and new survivors comes new perks. And if there's one thing that I would have to absolutely hate about Vecna, it would definitely be his 3 new perks. Out of the 3, Turn Back the Clock ironically might be the most mild of them in terms of effects. Allowing killers to actively damage generators without physically going to them is huge in terms of quality of life and efficient gameplay, but it is limited by range and you cannot use it unless you're in direct line of sight of the generator. So you can't use it through walls or objects, which makes you really regret bringing it on Larry's or Hawkins of all maps. The only potential problem with this perk is if it has the possibility of synergizing with gen kick perks such as Pop Goes the Weasel, Trail Torment, Eruption, etc. Right now that's not the case, but if it's changed to ever be that way upon release or somewhere down the line, that could cause huge problems for the overall balance in the game and how killers and survivors play this game, and would make the game definitely less heavy. As of right now, this perk is relatively mild in its design, but I also don't think it's very exciting or healthy overall to have another gen regression perk added to the game. Then with Secret Project, this perk makes it so that whenever a gen at any moment gets blocked, the killer gains undetectable for a period of time. This perk as a survivor is already going to be very annoying to go against, and it's not even because of the perk effect itself, but because it pairs extremely well with other very strong perks that block generators, such as Grim Embrace, DMS, No Holds Barred, etc. Going against these perks is already a mess on its own, and then the cherry on top is having a killer that has no right to be stealthy, having constant undetectable. Personally, I think that this perk would have a lot more counterplay if you tied the undetectable effect to its first main effect, to it being activated via totem cleansing rather than gen blocking. This would incentivize the killer to run this perk with a hex build, which definitely can still be deadly, but it will be a lot more interactive on the survivor side, with them having to cleanse totems to disable the perk rather than just gens get blocked, killer gains undetectable, and there's not much you can do about it. Speaking of hex perks, we now have Hex Hive Mind. Oh dear. With the effect of constantly seeing the repair progress of generators at all times, this effect can be absolutely nasty on a lot of killers, specifically very territorial killers such as Freddy or Singularity. Having a perk that allows the killer to constantly know which gen is being worked on so that they can quickly interrupt it, install out the game, and go on full gen defense is quite oppressive. This is a reason why for Legion and Wraith that they have this effect as add-ons, and airy ones at that, and that's because while the effect is good, they cannot easily capitalize it. Being very standard M1 killers makes them very unsuited for overall gen defense. But imagine this effect for the cost of one perk slot on any killer in the game. And on top of that, when the match is down to the last gen to be completed, all 3 gens instantly explode and regress, also making this a gen regression perk. While this is balanced around the fact that it is a hexed and that it can be cleansed to be disabled, this perk honestly needs a overhaul / a redesign. The only change that I can suggest is to remove the repair progress reveal and lean more into being gen regression, such as whenever a generator is completed, 3 other random generators immediately explode and start regressing, similar to Oppression's effect. But even then, I still wouldn't like the perk, and this perk overall definitely needs to be relooked at. Overall, these perks I believe are quite problematic, and even if they're not absolutely top tier, I think that they can lead to frustrating gameplay or scenarios that either side probably wouldn't enjoy in the long run. But then we have the new survivor perks coming from Dustin, Henderson, and 11, which as usual for survivor perks are relatively mid, but at least they look and seem more interesting than Vecna's killer perks. On Dustin's side, we first up have Bada Bada Boom. After doing some gen progress, this perk allows you to trap a window to slow the killer, similar to Chemical Trap from Ellen Ripley. While I feel this perk isn't strong by any means, it can be very problematic and frustrating for a lot of slow killers already, or killers that naturally have a vault in their kit, such as Legion or Wesker. Imagine as Legion, you are desperate to hit someone with your Fell Frenzy power, only to completely lose it after becoming as slow as a slug from vaulting a trapped window. And it's even more frustrating when you realize that windows are permanent and can't be broken unlike pallets, and the hindered effect from Bada Bada Boom lasts for 6 seconds, whereas from Chemical Trap it lasts for 4 seconds. I do like this perk's effect, but it needs to be brought down to the same level as Chemical Trap. Make the hinder effect duration the same as Chemical Trap, being 4 seconds, and make it so that you can't trap the same window twice in a row. Once the window is trapped and it's activated, you cannot trap that window again. I think this would make the perk a lot more tolerable and fair to play around for a lot of killers. Then comes Change of Plan, with this perk basically being like Built to Last from Felix, but instead of refilling your toolbox, it changes your toolbox into a medkit after you go into a locker for a few seconds. This is quite interesting and can actually be situationally useful depending on what you want to do in the match or in your build. You can fully use your toolbox, change it into a medkit, take chase with the killer, which takes pressure off from your team. Then afterwards, when you escape or get off the hook or whatever, you'll be able to heal yourself quickly. Overall, not particularly strong, because you probably just want to take Built to Last and then use it to further gen progression, but it looks to be a very fun and satisfying perk to use. Then finally is Teamwork Full Circuit. I'm gonna be honest, man, just don't equip this perk. Don't equip this perk unless you're doing Dustin's Adept. There is absolutely no reason, even as a new player, that you need the good skill check zones to be increased. They are already very easy to hit. And even if you do need the size increase, this perk is not even that consistent, as you need at least one other person on you repairing the gen to activate this perk. This perk is just really lame and continues a very long trend of the teamwork set of perks just being incredibly mid. So with Dustin's perks, they're relatively interesting, but not really that great. 11's perks, however, specifically the first two, I think are quite fascinating. Out of all of the new perks introduced, Extrasensory Perception is definitely my favorite one. While this perk is very similar to the perk Still Sight from H3, for a long range, this perk allows you to see every aura possible. Totems, generators, other survivors, chests, the killers themselves, everything that you can ever ask for. Even though it is a slight commitment, being able to see this much info is pretty huge as a survivor, while also not being incredibly game-changing. I also think this perk is great for beginners trying to learn the overall layout of maps and placements as long as they don't overly use it. It's definitely not going to be as strong as other aura reading perks, but I can't pass up on a goofy effect such as this, just being able to see all types of auras for a certain period of time whenever you need to. Very, very nice. Continuing the trend of aura reading perks, we have We See You. What this perk does is that every 4 times that your auras is being read by the killer, this perk counteracts that and allows you to get aura reading on the killer for your whole team. This can be quite brutal when used against killers such as Pyramid Head or Trickster, who definitely want to bring aura perks to enhance their power. But other than that, We See You seems quite situational overall. Very much depends on whether or not the killer brings aura reading perks. My only main issue with this perk is that 15 seconds of aura reading is an extremely long time and can be very devastating on killers that are slow and get pre-ran easily. I think bringing this down to 10 seconds is more than fair for survivors to plan and make a move around, especially since this perk does not have a range limit and can be further enhanced with the perk Eyes of Belmont to increase the time that it stays up. Then finally is Teamwork Soft Spoken. Much like First Circuit, don't bring this perk unless you're doing the Adept. Its effect of reducing your repair noises on generators is slightly more tangible than Full Circuit, but it's still very bad. When you're working on a gen, either the killer knows that you're there and will try to stop you, or they don't know, and so you don't even need this perk to begin with. There are very few fringe case scenarios where the killer goes to a gen that has progress on it and then just actively turns around to not kick it. Vast majority of the time, the killer will go to a gen to disrupt it, in which case you will be found and then the perk did nothing for you. Just awful. So overall, a very interesting set of perks that I think are worth grabbing, but some of them definitely need to be changed before they come up on the live release. But what's different about this PTB that I found from other PTBs is that this one had a severe lack of overall changes to the game as a whole. Sure, we have new content, new killer, new survivors, new perks, but nothing when it comes to the older content. No updates for killers or older perks or add-ons or anything like that. The only thing we have is new stuff added for the 2v8 game mode, with the inclusion of Chucky, the new survivor class, the torchbearer, and multiple class changes. But that's for 2v8, a limited time game mode, nothing for the actual core experience, which is honestly fairly shocking. But I'm actually gonna go out on a limb and say that the lack of overall changes for right now is actually a good thing. The new Stranger Things content needs time to settle in and see how it performs and interacts with the overall game before putting in gameplay changes, as it was pretty awful when behavior tried to do so with certain other previous chapters. Later on, with the post patches and with the mid chapter, we can actually focus on core changes to the gameplay and for quality of life to better enhance the game once everything has fully settled in. But yeah, that's pretty much all that the PTB had to offer, and it definitely did not disappoint, except nobody wants to play the PTB, holy queue times. But it definitely is looking like Stranger Things Chapter 2 is going to be phenomenal. I definitely hope that this is going to be a great start to the new year for this game. But that's all I had to say. Let me know your overall thoughts on the PTB and how you're feeling on the new chapter. I'll see you all in the fog. Bye ya.